Ready to explore the latest trends in real estate? What are innovators in building planning for the future? The Ralph Bivens Project digs deep into the minds of key players in the industry and discussions with today's thought leaders. I'm Ralph Bivens. As a journalist who's covered the real estate development industry for decades, I invite you to join me as we probe for new ideas and projects that will be making headlines soon. We love to ask hard questions to interesting people. When you've done over 100,000 interviews, you seem to get enlightening answers. Don't forget to download and review this podcast on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your audio inspiration. You can also watch and subscribe on YouTube or visit realtynewsreport.com. Welcome, this is Ralph Bivens, the Ralph Bivens Project, and we're here today to talk with Bill Baldwin of Boulevard Realty. He has a significant agency that deals with the central Houston markets and a lot of the Interloop area. He's been president of the Houston Heights Association for a number of terms, and he's on the City Planning Commission. He knows a lot about the city, and he knows a lot about what's being built and what's being sold, and they sell a lot of houses. And so, Bill, here we are, early 24 still. How are you feeling about the start? We're out of the gate. What is it going?
We're off to a good start in 2024. Most of us are glad 2023 ended. It was not our finest moment in real estate. We had a number of challenges, from lawsuits to rising interest rates. We call it the golden handcuff. 72% of the country has an interest rate less than 4%, and they're not likely to move as they would have when interest rates were 3 and 4 and 5%. So, we had a pause there, which creates an inventory problem, which creates a supply and demand imbalance, which wasn't good for anyone. But 24 is off to a very good start. There's an optimism. Look, people only want to talk about this looming recession. Can we just agree that there was no recession? There is no recession. The American economy is resilient. Houston is very resilient. And I think we just put that behind us. We all foresee interest rates continuing to drop, and it'll be it's not going to be a massive drop the first quarter or anything, but there's a, continued agreement that rates will go down, which will then free up some more inventory, which will then, create a more balanced market. And certainly there's an optimism in real estate. There's an enthusiasm out there. There is pent-up demand. I had an open house for one of my agents the other day on Balin, and there were like hundreds of people at this open house, hundreds, and you're going, well, and look, there were multiple offers on that deal, and it did go slightly over the asking price. But what I know is that one person got it, and 199 people are still in the marketplace, waiting for the right house and the right opportunity. So I know there's pent up demand. We've seen more showings in January than ever before. You're seeing a little uptick in inventory. I think we're very well poised in Houston, Texas, to have a very good real estate year, coming off what was not a very good real estate year.
Well, the Heights, of course, is historic. Many of the homes there are 100 years old or something. It's a lot of beautiful old homes, and you know that area, like your office there is located there.
The Heights is booming.
Every sidewalk, you know everything about what's
25 years and 7,000 houses later. I'm supposed to know what I'm doing at this point in the Heights area. So about 25% of these buyers lately have come from California or other high wealth states, avoiding the state income tax. And what they want, the number one thing they want, is walkability. They want to be able to walk to something, and we never had this experience 5 or 10 years ago. Even my old house in the 200 block of Balin is too far for many of these people to walk to anything. They want to be a block off, and you used to think, well, no one wants to live close to Cultivari because there's cars parking everywhere. And for anyone that says that, there are people lined up to live next to Cultivari who want to be close to something. They can walk to Cultivari and Padres Wine Bar and get an ice cream and walk down the Heights Boulevard. And it's truly, that's helped the Heights become even more desirable than ever before. certainly the charm of the house and the style of the houses help. But it's the walkability. It's one of the few neighborhoods, really, like similar to Montrose, that's just very walkable, and that's what people are looking for today.
Yeah, well, you served on a committee with the city about walkability. Can you?
I chaired the Walkable Places Initiative.
Yeah, that's right. What are the insights and lessons you learned from the walkability committee?
The point of the Walkable Places Initiative was to enhance the pedestrian realm so that it was a safer environment for individuals to walk, stroll, be in a wheelchair and a walker, or whatever they're doing in neighborhoods that traditionally hadn't been as walkable. We're used to 25-foot setbacks, thinking that we're going to continue to enlarge roads like Brazos and Bagby or Westheimer or Bissonnet or Montrose. And in reality, wider rights of way and big, massive lanes of traffic have not served those areas very well at all. So we actually looked at the historical perspective, places like 19th Street, where the buildings are closer to the street. There's an active pedestrian realm. There's some transparency. It actually does slow down the traffic of the cars. It provides a buffer for pedestrians and then a safer environment for the sidewalk and the activities that were happening in the pedestrian realm there. So it was very well received. We implemented it in a number of ways. And then what's happened is on the Planning Commission, because not everywhere has been designated yet as a walkable places initiative, but if you opt into that performance standard, anyone that's opted in since that has been passed unanimously by the City Planning Commission, because that it is the standard by which we want people. So we're getting something, again, a buffer, a wider sidewalk, transparency, an active pedestrian realm. They get a few things too, a little more buildable space by moving up their building to the 10-foot build line or 5-foot build line, depending upon the circumstance of the road of that particular block. So it's win-win for developers. They have more certainty. They didn't have to wait and apply for a variance. So it sped up the whole process of planning. But the city benefited because it got a safer pedestrian realm incrementally as development occurs. So we were very excited to pass those initiatives about midway through the Turner administration. So they've been in place about 4 years now. And we continue to see projects. Last week, Center Street, a Frank Liu development, opted into the performance, built sidewalks they really weren't required to build before, but knowing that along the Washington corridor at Silver Street and Center Street, where you're going to have more active pedestrian realm, it created a safer environment for everyone.
That's right. That's right. Commercial property. What's going on with commercial property here?
COVID, of course, changed our world in office buildings and how people work from home. I mean, it decimated many of those kinds of industries. And I don't think we're ever going back fully the way we were before. So while the retail market is booming, the restaurant, the breweries, the wine places, those things are doing fine. Office space and a traditional law office on Heights Boulevard doesn't need the space that it needed 5 years ago. They just don't do it anymore. They go to court via Zoom, and their law library is on the internet, and they're just not
massive deals that give with a bunch of files.
No, they meet their clients via Zoom. They don't even come to the office anymore. So you're having to find an adaptive reuse for some of those buildings. I think downtown is suffering from that, which causes the problem with some of the restaurants and things there. If it weren't for the Astros and a few of those other things, those businesses would be hurting a lot more than they are now. But I think we're going to have to find a way to repurpose some of those buildings, affordable housing or just housing projects in general, mixed use opportunities, a more creative use of some of that space so that we can fill up those buildings and take advantage of the amenities that we have, like the new Lynn Wyatt Park and the new parks that are coming close to Discovery Green in those areas. So I think it's going to be a challenging time still in 2024 for the commercial world if you're not just really into selling alcohol or CBD or whatever seems to be the most popular thing at the moment. But we will find a way to repurpose those buildings, I think, and there'll be some creative uses. And I think in the long run, we'll benefit from it.
What about I know in a lot of areas, the whole realm of well, I just call them tear downs, I guess. Tear downs are being replaced by new homes.
Sure.
That's happened all over the place. And the Bel Air Westview has a bunch, Garden Oaks, and of course it's in the Height, everywhere. What's going on with that phenomenon?
It's, people want a new home. They want a new car, and some people just really want the energy efficiency or just the freshness that a new home offers versus one that's, older. I tell people hate their parents' house and they love their grandparents' house. They were fonder memories. So we do better selling, houses from the 30s and 40s than I do the 70s, 80s, 90s. It's just a generation of housing. I mean, we are tearing down houses in the Heights that were built in 2001. It's just the way we live is different from 2001. That style, the look, the land elevated such in value that the $400,000 house I sold in 2001 now sits on a $750,000 lot. And the new home that wants to be there, which is going to be lighter and more modern and a different feel and with a bigger closet and a bigger bathroom.
Home office, you got to have a home office.
Right. It's just so, but there is limited amount of land. The city's done a pretty good job through historic districts and special minimum lot size, which is the tool to protect certain neighborhoods. And we encourage people to continue to stay involved in that movement. We made some changes to Chapter 42 at the end of the Turner administration and at the end of last year, also designed to protect certain neighborhoods so that the whole character of their neighborhood doesn't change. They're going to tear down an old house in River Oaks. They're going to tear down an old house in Timber Grove. They're going to tear down an old house in Meyerland, and they're going to replace it with a housing stock that's more desirable for people today than what was there. Some will be saved, as they should, and some will not be saved. But I think, for the Whitmire administration, it's one of the highest priorities to streamline and perfect the permitting process so that it's easier for people to get their development out. That costs major developers money, but it costs small scale developers and individual homeowners a lot of time and money and effort also. So I think that's a high priority in 2024. I think you will get some results there, not just talk about it, but some true action. That'll help. High interest rates have not helped individual small scale builders build houses, with floating interest rates at 7 or 8%, and the true cost of construction and materials and the limited amount of workforce that we have all been kind of characteristics. The same house you built last year cost you $100,000 more today than it built back 100 years ago. The insurance cost to carry it cost more, and everything is just costing more and more. So, that's a hurdle, I think. But at the same time, and we closed a new construction yesterday for a little over $2 million or whatever, and they were lined up to buy it, because some want new houses.
A spec built by builder on
builder, and these buyers got it about halfway through and made some changes.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering if those builders, is it now custom? The homeowner goes out and buys a lot, prepares, and then they find an architect, they find a builder, or do you see the builders doing spec?
Both. We see both. Yeah, I see both. We have less spec houses in the inner loop than we had, 4 or 5 years ago. I think that's just, again, the cost of the land. And so what you are seeing from development, just from my perspective of the Planning Commission also, is that on the outlying areas, Acres Home, East End, over those areas closer to the Midway development, South, Sunnyside, you're getting a lot of subdivision of lots and a lot of new construction at a price point that's generally more affordable. You're talking about houses in high 3s, 4s, 500s. We seem to have a fair amount of those things. Those buyers have been more impacted by interest rates than the more affluent buyers that borrow against their own stock account or had a large amount of cash or whatever. So in my world, the high end market actually is doing quite well, but those people are paying cash. They're not impacted by interest rates. And that subdivision lot that's in Acres Home or Independence Heights has struggled in 2023. I'm hoping that lower interest rates and some more financial incentives, the buy down, like I think Shay mentioned some at your last podcast or whatever, will help them, will help speed up those people. But affordability is just a huge issue nationwide. And of course, in Houston, Texas, the cost of an entry-level house has skyrocketed, in the last 5 to 10 years or whatever. And hopefully we can do something about it. But I mean, with land continues to increase and taxes continue to increase and insurance continues to increase, it's going to be a continuing challenge for us all to meet. The problem of affordability isn't going away anytime soon. But I do think it's a good time to invest in some spec houses, of single family houses. In my world, there's fewer of them every day. So when you tear down a big house and you replace it with 6 townhouses, you have one less single family house into the marketplace. And so I'm a huge proponent of single family housing development. I want to be clear, we sell a lot of subdivided lots also, and we do need those houses in order to have affordable houses for people to move into. But I think you can never really go wrong with just single family, small scale development inside the loop.
Yeah, but when you look at West University Place, 40s housing, a lot of it. But now you drive through there, and I don't know what the ratio is, but doesn't seem like there's a lot more new houses than
there's a lot more new houses. And the proximity to the med center versus older 8-foot ceilings, aluminum windows. I mean, there's a charm to a certain amount of houses, and there's some houses that just probably the highest and best use is new construction with 4 or 5 bigger bedrooms with bathrooms, but no shared bathrooms anymore. Everything you build has an in-suite bathroom anymore. You're not going to have 4 kids sharing one bathroom like you did in 1965. It's not the way people live.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Our cars are bigger and our houses are bigger.
That's right. We could, some of those houses, 1-car garage. That was.
Yeah. Now we have to have. Now we want 4-car garages, or at least the garages with high ceilings, so you can put the lift in it. Lifts are a very popular attraction for buyers, both for even in Bel Air. The houses aren't probably the new houses that are built higher aren't going to flood, but the cars still could flood. But if you have the lifts, then you raise your cars up or whatever, and it protects the cars. So they're very popular.
What about, let's talk about a couple of neighborhoods, just microscope in a little bit. Sure. The museum district,
I love it. So I'm leaving the Heights for the first time in 25 years to move to Hawthorne, 1530 Hawthorne. And what the reason is the walkability of it. I wanted a more modern house, which I wasn't probably going to fit in the Heights, and I get that. So out of respect, I just went and bought a more modern house that I can walk to the Mill, I can walk to Rosie Cannonball and Common Bond and all of those sort of things. So we love that particular area, and just the museums, all of them. And like we used to think of the Museum of Fine Arts, but now with CAM and with the Holocaust Museum, and there's Buffalo Soldiers Museum, there's all of those areas over there that are just very appealing to a large swath of people. Not only the museums, but then you add in Herman Park and the whole recreational portion of that sort of thing. So it just makes that area more and more desirable. Many doctors will only be 5 minutes from when the beeper goes off. And so those areas are very appealing to them. And you have some deed restricted areas that are just going to be single family. And then you have the infill development on many of those streets where you're going to get 3- and 4-story townhouses with rooftop terraces and a view of Herman Park over there. That makes it pretty desirable when you're, and just beautiful.
Yeah, all these major oak trees are planted 100 years ago or something. They're huge. It's just a beautiful place.
Yeah, very desirable area. A lot of new construction, more modern construction. It's very interesting to me how modern houses are really evolving into a number of those areas. It's just many of the people are coming from foreign areas, foreign countries, and they tend to be way more modern than the traditional sort of look that we even built 10 years ago. That we don't build that same house anymore.
And what about Montrose area?
Very desirable again, just lined up in every aspect. I was showing $500,000 townhouses in Montrose, which you can imagine are all 20 years old. There's no new ones in that price range, but they do still exist for people. And, that couple who were, not they were from a different country, only have one car, and they want to live in Montrose because they want to be able to survive with one car and they have a small child. The walkability to them is the number one reason they won't even go to Rice Military, because it's just too far from the things that they really want. So they're willing to sacrifice and have less of a yard and maybe an older home in order to get into Montrose or whatever. So I think the activity is very good in Montrose. Same thing, some modern houses being built in Mandel Place and Winlow Place and those areas there. But I think what they want, that proximity to things on Dunleavy, things on Westheimer, and I think you're going to get more of these things that are walkable for people to walk to. So they're very desirable areas.
Garden Oaks.
Yeah, it's just the lot size. I mean, that's what people find very attractive, is to be able to go get 8, 10, 12, 15,000 square foot lot. It's been interesting to me because I have a listing on a 15,000 square foot lot over there. The housing sales have the high end on the bigger lot is what sold in 2023. It was easier to sell a $2.2 or $2.3 million house in Garden Oaks on an oversized lot than it was to sell a $1.4 million house on a slightly smaller lot, say a 7,000 square foot lot. It was interesting how that worked. There's a fair amount of new construction out there in Garden Oaks, all different types of styles. That's where more traditional houses are being built. But there again, fair number of very modern houses got under contract over $2 million in Garden Oaks. And it's just, the heights, the land was too expensive. You can't ever acquire enough land to get yourself those sort of things in the areas of heights. And again, the proximity to people that work downtown or people that work in the Galleria area or that need to commute up to the airport find areas like Garden Oaks very desirable. I can't seem to get the medical doctors. It's too far for the doctors. Even though we didn't go to work at 5 o'clock in the morning, they just don't seem to be inclined to want to go there. They stay closer, but a number of other people just find it. And the schools, they continue to get better and better. And the retail, think of the number of restaurants, wine bars, recreational places on 34th Street and 42nd Street that now people have lots of options. I'm very excited about the redevelopment of the Sears building up there. I'm waiting to see exactly what happens with that. I think everyone in that neighborhood is really hoping that it's something pedestrian friendly, that's friendly for the neighborhood. And I think that's what's
They've got to save that sign. They
have to save the sign. I just sold a house right north of there, someone that was priced out of the heights, right where Wabash just, they moved on Shepherd right there north of 42nd Street. And there again, they got a little ranch style house in the 350s that had a lot of charm to it. You wouldn't be able to get that for 350 in the heights or anything. And it's walkable to all those things on 42nd Street. I love that Barbecue Inn. We've been going there a lot since COVID or whatever. I love the Barbecue Inn up there. You bring your own wine and it's stuck in 1968 over there. The same people that designed the Astrodome designed that building at the Barbecue Inn.
No kidding. They were hip in the 60s. They were where it's at. Yeah. Now this may be top secret stuff, and I know you may not want to share it, but I was just looking for kind of the next place. What's the next place, the next neighborhood that's going to go boom? Oh,
what really is being discovered, and especially for new construction, is Lindell Park. So it's adjacent to the Heights, but across I-45. And the lots are, some of them slightly larger, whatever. We've started selling some houses in the mid 750s there, maybe about 2 or 3 years ago. Recently sold some $1 million houses there, which there again, instead of being 1.6 million, they're only 1 million. But I think Lindell and the proximity to the rail their coffee bars and little wine bars that are popping up in some of those areas make it really, for people who are priced out of the Heights, it's really is, I think, it could be the next Heights. There's some charming old houses that I think will make it. Fair number of new construction. They're deed restricted, so it's always going to be lot sizes greater than 5,000 square feet, which is very appealing to many people who don't want to live in a neighborhood where you start having a lot of townhouse development. So that makes it very attractive. It's proximity, things happening right there in the Hardy yards that are going to be close to, the post. You're really very close to all of those sort of things. And to be able to just walk over, hop on the rail, go to the post, go eat there, go up to the rooftop, maybe see a, concert at their little music hall, those things being 4 and 5 minutes. And I did sell a number of houses there for people who the wife was in medical, and they can just hop on the rail, go straight to the med center, stay on their phone and text and drink their coffee, for the 25 minutes it takes to get there. Don't have to have a car, don't have to park. Find it way more convenient to use the rail. So Lindale, I think, is a sleeping.
Tell us, where
north of 610.
Where is it?
North of I-10, between 610 and 45 and 59. That little pocket across I-45 from the Heights and Brooksmith, Fulton, and those little areas there. There's pockets of neighborhoods that are very, very, very charming, cute. They have their own little parks there. It's very desirable.
And the Irvington
and Fulton, yeah, they're right there. Yeah, it's the residential streets off of Irvington and Fulton is really what I'm talking about right there. Yeah,
but we'll get a bunch of investors moving over there.
There you go. Yeah, totally.
When they hear about this, they'll be there the next day.
There's always room in the East End and some of those areas. It just, I don't, I do think people want minimum lot size and some deed restrictions. That's what makes Garden Oaks and Oak Forest and Timber Grove and some of those areas stay desirable, because they have a certain amount of deed restrictions. It doesn't prohibit the new construction. It may prohibit, some few little things, but it's not anti-development. It's just controlled growth and the maintaining of the neighborhood to the fabric. I think what disappoints many people is they move to a certain neighborhood and then the feel of the neighborhood is totally changed by development. And that's the nature of an unzoned city. And I get it. The protection is special minimum lot size or a deed restriction. And there's certain people that want to live inside the loop that have these protections. And there are a number of neighborhoods out there. Make sure your realtor knows how to look up special minimum lot size and a few of those things on the information website that the city provides. But I think that's what makes Lindale and some of those areas very attractive. So I think you're going to see more new home development there.
Now, switch gears a little bit. The high-rise condominiums, we see them coming up along West Timber and then out San Felipe and other places. There seems to be quite a market for that.
I think that high-rise living is tough. I think COVID made it more difficult. You couldn't have your grandkids visit, couldn't be in the elevator with some other people. Your Uber or delivery from wherever couldn't get to you. It made it so I think they struggled certainly during the COVID periods of time when outdoor space was very important. We continue to get a lot of them being built. Can we absorb all of these units, and will they continue to appreciate? I'm a little nervous. People do not move to Houston, Texas to live in these things. I'm not saying that they don't work. Where they have been successful, where I've seen it's been the most successful, is someone downsizing, selling their house in River Oaks, Memorial, Westview, Judge Emmett, any of these type of people who then move into that and probably have some second home someplace else, whether that's Colorado or Utah or the Hill Country or wherever it might be. And that kind of lock and leave is very appealing to a certain demographic. It's just a very small demographic. And these maintenance fees are, a little hard to stomach for some people, even though writing a check is a lot easier than finding a guy to, mow your yard on a consistent basis. But it is still, it's not as desirable. And the price points really are quite expensive for what you get for a number of them. But I sold a number
$1,000 a foot or something for some of the things.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It is. But I just had friends that are moving to that new development on Allen Parkway or whatever. They sold their house in River Oaks. That was a big thing. And they love the lock and leave of it. They love the modern feel of it. They love the security of it. So, it works for some people, but I do think if you get a glut of them, and it's the same thing, what I find is people love the brand new one, but they don't really like the 10-year-old one or the 20-year-old one or the 30-year-old one. And so it's going to be interesting to see. I'm kind of following that little high-rise thing that's kind of by Lucille's there, ex-Houston or whatever, which is going to be the micro units. And they've done them in other cities. I don't really know the whole story. I just, what I read, that they had obviously some financial problems and the construction has stopped kind of midstream over there. I was always wondering if that project was going to make it or not. I just don't see it happening, but maybe there's young people who want some shared spaces and only pay rent for a very small deal, but that's really not the Houston kind of lifestyle that we're used to seeing. So I'll be curious to see if they can finish that project, or will it evolve out of that into something else. And we see many of these apartment complexes, turn into the Royalton, are sold off and then converted over into condominium projects. The small scale little developments, I have someone, a well-known person who's ready to go and wants the safety and security and lock and leave of something, but doesn't want to be in a building, 70 stories tall with 400 different people. They want to live in one of these smaller ones like 1111 Studewood, or the little one that's going right there at White Oak Bayou in Houston, where you get 16 or 18 units, maybe one little restaurant down below, enough amenities to kind of make it interesting, but a smaller scale where at least it's a more homier feel. I think those have a better shot of making it than some of the big high-rise things. Be curious to see how some of them do.
I know you probably. What about Galveston? It may
Galveston,
be
we're seeing. So of course, Galveston boomed during COVID. It was insane, the supply and demand, and we sold a number of places. People wanted them both for the rental income and for to get away, the lock and leave or whatever. They suffered in 2023 as rising interest rates, and you'd had such a pent up demand and such a boom in 2021, 22 that there was naturally going to be some downturn there. I've got 4 houses on the water. We got one under contract, had multiple offers last week or whatever, which is back, good to see again, because they did struggle in 2023, but I see a lot more signs of now people, willing to go back and, invest in some beach houses. I think that just the proximity, a lot of us, I have a little lake house and it's an hour away, and that's perfect for me. But if it were 2 hours or 3 hours away, I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go. There's enough charm to Galveston left and enough amenities for people to enjoy shopping and strolling and drinking and markets and art fairs and things that I think Galveston will see a pretty good resurgence in 2024. And I've already started to see that happen in January.
Multiple offers already, man. That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. All right. Hey, Bill, we could talk all day. Bill Baldwin, Boulevard Realty. Thanks a million for being on.
Thanks for having me. I love it. Anytime.
Appreciate it. Stay in touch, and you guys can always, find out what's going on realtynewsreport.com, and we keep up with the market there. And so sign on there. There's no paywall. So
I've done it. I signed up.
Great, man.
All right. 2024, and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, Bill.